कैसा चल रहा है ब्रो पैंडेमिक में?
it's fucked up यार क्या बताऊं. Trying my best to stay through. Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I've got two really smart people on the panel. Aaron is a cricket correspondent at the Quint and is heavily inclined towards geopolitics and business dynamics. On the other hand, I have Chinmay, who is a postgraduate from Xavier's College and has done a stint with several times in the financial beat. So guys, we have been in this pandemic for almost more than a year now. We all have seen the situations around us. Um, this was never seen before, right? This is all very new to us. So what would you say about the economic situation going on through this pandemic, and what do you think is going to happen in the near future?
I think, of course, this is an unprecedented situation, and the whole world is bearing the brunt of the COVID-19. Supply chains have fragmented, and the entire economies have come to a standstill. So, today in the podcast, we'll be discussing about various measures which can be taken to tackle the crisis, and also we'll be shedding light on what will be the roadmap for India's economic revival in the near future.
India currently is sitting on, the GDP growth of India has plummeted down drastically, and we need several growth measures to, just stabilize ourselves. We have lost jobs and we are not getting any new. So there needs to be a reform. And looking at the past history of all the pandemics like the Spanish flu or like Aryan said, Ebola as well. So there have been economic booms after the pandemic, so we're just hoping that India also revives the same,
Yeah.
and we'll just look at what India needs to do.
This is probably the worst economic crunch after World War II, right?
Yeah.
People don't have enough money to
Hmm.
carry on with their essentials, their day-to-day operations. And between all this, what do you think is the most optimal solution to get rid of this? Like, what suggestions do you have for the government, specifically Indian government, to go about this? What can be done?
Well, yeah. Just I just have a few points here. I think the government should, increase the expenditure of people. I mean, just there's a thing that we have been taught in journalism, which said you dig a hole and then you fill the hole. I mean, you just throw out money, you increase the purchasing capacity of the people so that they can go out and buy stuff, and that will increase your supply. That will increase the demand. That will increase the supply, and that's how you can get money to be rolling in the market again. Then you should prioritize sectors like IT, like agriculture, healthcare, education. I mean, these are the sectors that define our economy right now. India has been a huge foreground for IT, and there needs to be reforms through which people can get more jobs in that. You need to create employment in the sector, and agriculture should be tapped more, I feel, because it is quite undertapped. There's immense potential in the industry to call for structural reforms. We don't need temporary reforms like the ones we've seen in the past. Then main thing is we should capitalize on the anti-China wave that is being going through globally. I mean, COVID has brought massive hatred for that if I may say so, for the country, and therefore we need to capitalize on that. We need reforms so that startups and businesses come to India to form for their manufacturing. That will increase the jobs. That will increase the labor sector as well. So we can get money rolling, riding this wave, and it's not very difficult, and it should be done after post the pandemic. That is what I feel.
Okay. Basically, a suggestion is that government should go around distributing cash to their people so they
Yeah,
can have the
yeah,
purchasing power.
yeah,
Is there a technical term for
yeah.
this? Because
Exactly.
I guess this has been done in the past as well by other countries as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this has been done in the past, but this has been proven as a solution for the majority of them. Like, for example, I remember we have been taught that during the World War, after the World War, when the world was going through a cash crunch, US also adopted a similar solution to their problems, and it worked really well for us, for them. I mean, it can work for us as well. I mean, we should try. We should try everything that is there in the book and think outside the box as well.
Arun.
Tanmay, thing is that because the situation is so unfamiliar to everyone, the economic stalwarts are looking at previous patterns in the past. Like, for example, the trends in the 1916 Spanish flu. There was a post-pandemic economic boom after 1918 because the purchasing capacity of people really shot up.
Yeah.
So, for example, America's economy has grown 6% as compared to the 4% it was slated to grow at.
Okay.
The post-pandemic economic boom. And in India, we can also adopt similar measures. And it is also important that we include the lower income households into the rapid growth because they are the worst affected sector. They have lost jobs. They have no sources, no means of livelihood in the past few months. We have all seen the plight and the agony of migrant workers, how they have been forced to shift bases constantly, and what all tormentation they have faced through. So
Right.
I think lower economic households, the lower stratas of the society need to be at the forefront of India's economic revival.
So, guys, do you think the purchasing power of people is set to increase after the pandemic is over, when life gets back to normal? Do you think that's going to happen?
Yes. Yeah, it might happen because due to the pandemic, people have restricted themselves from, you know, buying luxury items and luxury goods. So therefore, they're sitting on a pile of cash, I think. And personally speaking, we are. I mean, we haven't purchased anything huge or made any, much expenditure apart from a few things here and there. So yeah, people are focusing more on the basic needs other than the luxury. So the purchasing power might increase after it's all over, though.
Okay. Arjun?
Even statistically speaking, there was a survey conducted by the Economic Times, one of the leading finance publications, and they found out that in the 21 most richest countries of the world, the savings of people was slated to be at $3 trillion in the last year to 2020, but it shot up to $6 trillion. So it is a 2x hike. So you can see how much pile of cash people are sitting upon. And once everything is established to normalcy, like things get better sooner than later, I think people will be forced to take more risks, invest more, and you will see a lot of more entrepreneurial ventures coming up. Like people who have been thinking that they need to start a startup or they need to get on with some business, I think they will take the plunge eventually.
Sure.
And I think one of the key differences between the 2008 great economic crisis and the current situation is that 2008 was predominantly about too much bad debt in the banking sector. And in the current situation, it is about economic change fragmenting. Like all industries have shut down and people do not have money. So that is one key difference I feel from the 2008 to the current crisis.
Yeah. Also, in 2008 crisis, companies were not shut down. They obviously their uh, employment had gone down. Obviously, the salaries went down. But here we are seeing a completely different thing. Like companies are being shut by the government. They are being forced because of the pandemic. And this is a health crisis. It was a economic crisis back then, and we cannot compare the two. But definitely the aftermath of both of them were horrifying, and we're losing jobs. Even now, we lost then as well. But the companies right now are going into debt. At that time it was the banks, and they were not able to provide cash into the system. Right now we do have cash. India is sitting on a pile of I think around equal to almost 18% of their GDP. So that means we do have cash in our reserves, but we just have to wait for the right moment to put it out in the market.
Right.
It's different from the global economic crisis in 2008, but it's kind of similar if you look at the job prospect of the both.
So it's highly likely that post-pandemic job opportunities are going to spike up all over
Yeah.
the world as well as India.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would like to ask you, India's current economic situation is like, it's unprecedented. We have never seen this before. Like we have seen it, like there have been bad times, but this is like the first time in history that it has happened, that things are so bad. So what do you think are the proper revival methods or any solutions that government should go for? Like, do you have any suggestions for that?
I would like the government to address that the demand has slowed down.
Yeah.
Then we can introduce stimulus packages for the middle class and the lower middle class who have suffered the most, and we should look for job creation as well. I mean, in according to CMIE, in 2021, only in 2021, from January to March, almost 9.8 million people have lost their jobs, and
Yeah.
therefore companies are struggling, and this might continue a bit in the future as well, because they're struggling to run smoothly. So therefore, I think subsidizing the labor cost, cutting a few taxes here and there, and also incentivizing the private sector,
Yeah.
that will help a lot in job creation, and therefore we can revive our economy for that. So from that, and also we can allow more and more small finance banks to borrow loans from the RBI and distribute it to whoever approaches them. So that we can, I mean, extend our growth and boost our economic growth by that.
Definitely. Guys, I saw this video on the internet. It's going viral on Instagram right now, where this person from lower income group is talking to a reporter and is really mad about he's really pissed on the government because of the benefits they're giving to the low income groups during this pandemic. The reporter asked him that whether are you happy with the kind of compensation you're getting? Like, is 500 rupees not enough? So he started yelling at the reporter that no, I'll give you 500 rupees. You take 500 rupees for me, but no, this is not enough. Like, government should be compensating us more. Like, if we are not happy to go out and work in this pandemic, we also are obviously concerned about our lives, but we have no money to go about our lives, and we have to be we are forced to basically open our shops. We are really blessed to be in a position that we can stay at home, but a lot of people, they don't have that option. They have to go out and earn their bread and butter every day. So that's a horrible situation right now for them.
It's very horrible. Even we have seen the situation of migrant laborers on the TV every day. I
Yeah.
mean, also the people lining up outside the hospitals to get the basic medical facilities. It's really horrifying, the situation right now.
Yeah.
And also 500 rupees accounts for nothing right now in these
Exactly.
days. You don't get anything for 500. Even the basic medicines that you require to treat the disease, those cost much more for just one dose. So yeah.
And also, major powerhouses of the world economy are making efforts to make sure that everybody is well compensated in times of such crisis. Like, for example, America, they have announced a $2 trillion package, stimulus package, so that every American is deposited direct cash payment into their bank and can make a do during these times. And also, the British government has organized a Euro 30 billion furlough package for everyone who's unemployed in the country. But considering India's population and the density it has, I think in the future, India should also borrow a lot from the World Bank and the financial reserves, because they are a very creditable buyer and lender. Because India has a very good reputation. We have always repaid our debts on time. We have been a very good borrower. So I think there will be no problems from the World Bank in lending India money. And then we can infuse all that capital in the next 2 to 3 years into our economy, so that jobs will grow, the industrial sector will flourish again,
Yeah.
and also the people who are willing to open new entrepreneurships, or for suppose, for example, somebody is trying to get into the hotel sector, or somebody is trying to open a new sports shop. So these people do have the banks and the financial structures, so that they have the requisite capital to get into these ventures. So I think how the government approaches the situation in the coming years is very crucial to India's financial reform.
Definitely. But also, if we take a look at all the other countries, I think India is the worst affected by this pandemic. If you look at the GDP numbers, on the other hand, when China and US, both of them have improved their GDP over the years, India has been not doing so good. In fact, this is the worst time in history that we have been giving out such bad GDP numbers. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, if you look at India's graph over the years for GDP, it has gone how there these machines at the hospital,
Really, yeah.
that measure your heartbeat. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been like that. It's like your pulse. And India is currently at 4.9. It plummeted. It did plummet at minus 23.9, and India did revive pretty well. But 4.9 is nothing. Even Bangladesh is growing at 8.2. I mean, we are we are very much affected. We don't have much idea about it sitting at home. But looking at the numbers, India is in a horrible state right now.
So I think there are some crucial factors through which India can drive its growth in the future. Like, for example, in the 1916 Spanish flu, what the British government did was that they focused on automation and more technology. Like, they felt that more labor intensive jobs had to be reduced. They had to reduce the dependency on human man force. So they invested a lot in digital printing presses and industrial machines. So the technical revolution basically. So India also needs to work on that aspect. I mean, it is a long shot at the moment, but if India can develop more and more robots, more industrial automation, you'll see the Oppo industry in Noida. It is a completely wholly automated sector.
The video
So
that you
more
sent.
and more, yeah,
Yeah.
they have not even shut down their industry for even one day during the pandemic. So
Yeah.
and most of the industries which were dependent on human labor, they have made no business in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So that is the difference. They were prepared already for the crisis coming in their way. So if India can concentrate their resources on more and more automation, it would do wonders to our economy. Mostly predominantly out of a 52 batch, hardly one or two out of us are employed currently. So you can understand the purchasing capacity has hit the rock bottom. I mean, companies are not willing to give jobs at the moment. Everybody is in a hiring freeze. Even Chinmay can elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, I myself am a personal sufferer of that. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
trying everywhere, but there's nothing. I mean, all the major corporate houses are on a hiring freeze, and the small ones are hiring, but they all require experience. I mean, freshers like me with a limited experience, we don't have anywhere to go right now. And also, there are not much salaries. I mean, Xavier's graduate could fetch around 40, 50,000 a month easily out of campus, and now we are settling for 20, 25. So that gives us an account of how the companies are functioning right now. I mean, how much cash reserve they have. Everyone is looking for interns, just free willing.
Yeah.
Exactly, you can see how low the bar is set. I mean, journalism is a white collar professional, right? We have invested at least 15 to 20 years of my life acquiring information, going through our studies, getting into a top journalism institute. And once you complete all that grind, you get through the grind, what are you getting? Peanuts, 25, 30K. That
Yeah.
really doesn't suffice you. I mean, in New Zealand and in Australia, a farmer, a daily wage laborer, gets around 42,000 rupees a month.
Yeah.
So you can see the difference, stark difference. So
Yes.
India also needs to reestablish the structures so that we pay the people who are deserving very well in the future.
Definitely, because it also demotivates you after a point when you have
Yeah,
studied for something so hard. When you have worked for something so hard, you don't get paid accordingly.
yeah,
Demotivate
that is true.
in one way or the other.
Yeah,
There's also job satisfaction which suffers.
ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन्स में की कंपोनेंट तो चाइना का वर्ल्ड रोड एंड बेल्ट है
hmm.
because they are trying to build an economic corridor which will encapsulate the whole world, and 164 countries out of 193 have signed on to the pact.
Yeah.
But the major countries, major powerhouses like India and USA, they have backed out because they feel that it will violate the trade laws, and China will try and push its own case. So अभी बहुत सारी कंट्रीज ने अलग अलग डिफरेंट अप्रोचेस अपनाई है इन द पैंडेमिक सिचुएशन. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल इंडिया डिडंट restrict the exports. We have helped each and every country and we have gone out of our way to help them because like हमने Seychelles और मालदीव्स और ऐसे ऐसे छोटे छोटे देशों को हमने इंजेक्शंस, पीपीई किट्स और हाइड्रोक्लोराइड वगैरह सब कुछ हमने सप्लाई किया. चाइना का ब्रो जो नियो कॉलोनियलिज्म एडवांटेज है, I think it is going to govern how the world trade will be panned out in the next 50 years. They are doing some phenomenal work. उनकी स्ट्रैटेजी इतनी सिंपल है. पहले तो जो अंडर पावर कंट्रीज है, फॉर एग्जांपल श्रीलंका वगैरह, उनको 2000 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट दे दो. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल दे बिल्ड द हम्बनटोटा पोर्ट इन श्रीलंका. and they were like कि आप इसको ऑपरेट करो, इससे इतना फंड्स निकलेगा, गार्नर होगा प्रॉफिट, तो हम इसको आगे बढ़ाएंगे. But they very well know that this won't be a lucrative initiative. It would not even break even. So after 2-3 years, they intervene and capture that whole thing. So it is like neo-colonialism. They are trying to invest into somebody else's territory, and then after 2-3 years, when that financial project doesn't work out, they capture that territory altogether. So it is now an extended part of China in Sri Lanka.
श्रीलंका का भी ऐसा है ना कि उसके जो पोर्ट है दैट इज एक्सेसिबल फ्रॉम एवरीवेयर, बहुत इजीली आता है ट्रेड रूट पे वो, सो बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज है. हाँ एग्जैक्टली, सेंटर में है. ऑस्ट्रेलिया इधर, यूरोप से आएगा माल, सो इट्स इन द सेंटर. लाइक पहले जो केप टाउन हुआ करता था, अभी वो ये है, श्रीलंका है. एंड चाइना हैज दैट बेनिफिट, दे कैन सेंड देयर प्रोड्यूस एवरीवेयर थ्रू दैट.
भाई उस प्रोजेक्ट का मैग्नीट्यूड इमेजिन करना मतलब बियॉन्ड द रियल्म्स ऑफ ह्यूमन पॉसिबिलिटी लगता है. मतलब तू सोच, एक ऐसा ट्रेड कॉरिडोर रहेगा जो दुनिया का हर देश कनेक्ट करेगा, एंड एनीबॉडी कैन एक्सपोर्ट एनीथिंग टू एनीवन एल्स. अभी कितना रिस्ट्रिक्शंस है, मतलब अगर कुछ भी भेजना होता है यहाँ से वहां तो 1000 तरह का डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होता है, और बहुत मतलब लंबी और टाइम कंज्यूमिंग प्रोसेस होती है. 6-6 महीने लग जाते हैं एक्सपोर्ट्स को फैसिलिटेट करने में, बट इट विल जस्ट बी ओवरहॉल्ड इन अ मैटर ऑफ फ्यू इयर्स.
Yeah, but that is also if the major countries like India and USA or Europe, for example, they sign those treaties.
Yeah.
अगर उन्होंने नहीं किया और जो छोटे कंट्रीज है उन्होंने किया, तो it won't affect the global economy so much.
Correct.
Because it is like it or not, it is governed by two major powers, that is China and USA. बाकी we are not contributing that much as we think we are.
It is very, very difficult to get China and USA on board, India and USA on board for China, because we are two direct rivals. So I don't think they can ever join hands.